All right, 𝐜𝐨𝐸𝐨 Khumalo, SABC News reporter, joins us now for more on this interview. Good afternoon, 𝐜𝐸𝐸. A wide-ranging interview that you had with Venâncio Mondlane. Let's start with the Angola situation there. He was barred entry. Why exactly?
Well, certainly it was quite a debacle, Mfundo, where you had so many of these opposition leaders, including former Botswana's president, 𝐬𝐸𝐸, including Mr. Venâncio Mondlane, and many other leaders from Tanzania and many other parts of the continent. So essentially, it was part of UNITA's 59th anniversary, but also working with the Brent Hess Foundation and many other pro-democracy groupings in the continent. So far, the reasons really are quite unknown, but from what they were told, it was about the visa issues, but obviously they've really rejected those claims. In fact, Mr. Mondlane said it was quite embarrassing because Angola should be a leading country when it comes to democracy in the African continent. The current chairperson of the African Union is the Angolan President João Lourenço. So by all means, the expectations were fairly high for them to be allowed to go and have these opposition parties engagement, especially when you're talking about the issues of democracy and many other issues as well.
He dismisses issues around visas. So all documentation, was in place, according to him.
Well, very much so. So they say they really had their ducks in the row, and they worked so hard in terms of making sure that they get there. They communicated with the Foreign Affairs Ministry in Angola, then they were just detained for certain hours, and then they were deported. So something that was very disappointing. In fact, we have seen also the reaction from UNITA, where they really expressed their displeasure with these developments.
And then on Podemos, we also heard there him indicating that he has cut ties with Podemos, but also suggesting that some could have possibly been fatigued with all the fighting and decided that perhaps it's time now to work hand in hand with Daniel Chapo, the current president, as well as Frelimo, and have some sort of a truce or ceasefire, so to say. Just talk to us about this suggestions where he alludes to some sort of collusion with some within Podemos that led to him now being sidelined.
So certainly did lose faith to Podemos, especially because we saw that during the course of the swearing in of the new MPs, he did not attend that particular ceremony. He boycotted the event, but some members of Podemos, they were part of the event, and just the analogy that he's using there, saying that, well, they chose the salary and he chose the people. So he's going to continue the struggle, especially because he talks about a very volatile political environment in Mozambique, where you still do have these sporadic incidents. It might be fairly quiet, where, just a movement between South Africa and Mozambique, everything appears to be fine, but you do have a pockets of incidents where so much is still happening in Mozambique, but also the extrajudicial killings that are happening. But obviously, quite a lot also has to be tested with the Mozambican authorities, whether are they investigating these cases. But also he talks about a country where lawlessness and political intolerance is quite pervasive.
And what does he plan to do? He believes that the establishing of this new party will assist in addressing some of those issues. Where to from here?
So precisely. So he's saying he's going to start this new political party as a vehicle in terms of addressing the issues facing Mozambicans, whether you talk about unemployment, fixing the economy, dealing with the issues of instability, especially in Cabo Delgado, where you still do have the concern around instability, but also really just talking about the disappointment in terms of really just a response from Mozambique itself, especially because there has been a lot of promises and commitment made by the current authorities. For example, during the course of the working visit here in South Africa, President Daniel Chapo of Mozambique spoke about having this pact with opposition parties. But once again, talking about being sidelined, especially when you look at even like the results that were validated by the Constitutional Council, where they said he was a second-ranking politician in the country in terms of those results. So he feels that he has been really sidelined by the powers that be.
But many could say that given that he wants to now establish a new political party, clearly he hasn't lost momentum. He's clearly quite passionate, because it's very difficult to start a party, let alone given the political environment now in Mozambique and the volatility that exists. So is he currently in Mozambique, or he's not necessarily based there but will somehow begin the process to establish the party?
Well, Mfundo, we talk about a man who has survived 3 attempts on his life. So that was a question I asked him. I said, after everything, are you still willing? Are you still determined to continue fighting? And he said, look, he's got a sense of purpose. For him, it's all about making sure that Mozambique is free, but also in terms of making sure that they see like that new Mozambique, and Mozambique with prosperity. I mean, after all, this is a country with massive amount of gas, with incredible coastline. So the potential is enormous, but he talks about also the state of affairs that is highly concerning, where corruption is fairly endemic, a number of socioeconomic challenges, but really painting a very bleak picture, saying that it's high time that Mozambique really is able to realize its full potential.
All right, 𝐿𝐸lihle, thank you very much for that reportage. That's SABC News reporter 𝐿𝐸lihle Khumalo, who was in conversation with Mozambican politician Venâncio Mondlane.